Hey guys, King of Charmanders here, and now we have the Retro Cup with Lickitung XL. So, for some odd reason, this thing is the most dominant Mon, Kanto Cup, and for the Retro Cup. It is literally the most powerful lead and save switch. In fact, it's the most powerful Pokemon overall. I'm starting with the most powerful Pokemon because if you have an XL Lickitung, you rated like a monster, you poured all your rare candy into this thick and ridiculous and very... It has a long tongue, okay? That's all I have to say. I really don't know... I don't know what to say about it because it's a Lickitung. It's really strong for this cup. And if you do have one, like I said, it's really good. So Lickitung XL is really good at level 50 for one reason. Because it maxed out near 1500. So that means with a good enough IV one, you can actually get one that maxes out at level 50 or even 50.5. As you see here, it has a ton of stamina and it's extremely bulky. It's basically a Chansey with viable charge moves and it has Lick. That's why it's so powerful. Anyways, quick typings with Lickitung because it's just pure normal. It's only weak to fighting and it resists ghosts. So having only one weakness in this cup is great because with a bunch of Charmers and Dragon types running around, you might not see. You could still see fighters, but they're not going to be super as common as you think. Even so, you could probably, the reason why it ranks so high is you could probably just leave this in a lead or switch, and even if you do encounter a fighter, you're still going to do a decent chunk of damage before it goes down. As you see here, it has Lick, Body Slam. Body Slam is Legacy, so you need to get, you need to Elite TM one if you want to get a good one, or get one traded to you. Now, the reason why it's so strong is because it has Body Slam and Power Whip. With Power Whip, you cover a bunch of water typings. It also does a ton of damage. That's why Body Slam and Power Whip so strong and the preferred moveset for the Retro Cup. Alright, so as you see here, we have the Retro Cup rankings from PV Poke, and I don't even need to scroll, it's right there in front of your face. Lickitung XL literally beats, or can beat, everything on this, like, probably like the top 10. So, if you see over here, it's insanely powerful. It barely loses to Eox's defense, but this is the 1 shield. You lose against Altaria in the 2 shield, but you're able to beat, like, a whole bunch of other meta picks, so if you have a Lickitung XL... Like I said, it's really freaking strong. It's very powerful in lead, very powerful to switch, and very powerful as an attacker because it licks and body slams everything to oblivion. Because this has a ghost-heavy meta with Frostless and like Alolan Marowak being really good in this meta, it's very strong because you lick everything to death and you resist ghost. So it's a very dangerous mon to have, and it does a ton of damage. So... that's why Lickitung's so strong. As you see here, very powerful in all positions. It's even decent as a closer. There are stronger closers, obviously, but it still does very well. As you see, number 1 lead, very powerful lead, only second to Dragon Breath users or Alolan Marowak, as I mentioned below. You beat so the thing is about Altaria, with this Altaria matchup, you only win in the 1 shield. You don't actually win the 2 shield. So if you actually go over here, if you do happen to see an Altaria lead, you might want to get out of there just because, as you see here, you'll barely lose the 2 shield. You can sack Lickitung and then farm down the Altaria in the 2 shield, but as you see here, so you can sack Lickitung. It has to use a Sky Attack, so it won't have an energy. Then you can farm down Altaria. So you can do something like that where you sack Lickitungs. There's a play like that. So that as the lead, Lickitung's very powerful. As a switch, it's also the number 1 switch. As you see, it does a lot of damage because there's such a ghost, because it's such a psychic heavy meta, or like ghost with like Frostless, because Frostless can be really strong. Lickitung does really, really well against base. It does very well against a lot of picks, right? You might have some people use fighters in the back just to try to cover Lickitung, but depending on how the meta shapes out, you might not see a lot of them because of psychic types and ghost types, like I mentioned. And there's also a bunch of flying types that are available too, and you also have Shadow Dragon there. So there's a lot of things that if you look at this list, everything, like, other than Lickitung XL, 2 through 8 resist counter, even number 10 and 11. So there's a bunch of things on the top meta that will resist counter users. So that's why it's not you can use them, they're not really that recommended. In the closer, you have electric types with, in the closer, the strongest is Frostless, as you see here. That's why Lickitung XL is so good, and Lickitung XL is still in the top 10. This is where you can close against Deoxys defense, and Alola Marowak, still Abomasnow as well. You'll lose against Altaria, however. You also lose against Frostless in the closer with no shield, just because Avalanche does so much damage. But as you see here, it's not a bad rating, so Lickitung XL can still come out of this matchup and win the W as long as you have chip damage on your back row. Unless it's fighters, then you kind of just die. So, yeah, just keep that in mind. Alright, so here's the ppoke.com matrix. As I always say, please consider going to ppoke.com. I have Lickitung right here. There's Lickitung. This is a level 50 Lickitung. Level 50 Lickitung's perfect IVs is 8, 14, 15. I know several people got them from the Kanto event, so if you got one, I'm super happy for you. But that doesn't mean, like, I would say, like, lower IVs or even, like you could still use lower IVs. I don't think there's too much of a break or bulk point between IVs to really, like, make a difference. Because you really want a perfect one. Like, we could do add and compare, but I'm gonna have to go really deep into it as far as that. Let's just, for now, to make it easier, let's assume that you have a perfect one. If the ratings get really close, then I'll mention, hey, you might need good IVs for this one. Which I don't foresee a lot of them, too, because the matchups you saw are very, very close. You can also get level 50.5 tech. So if you get 7, 15, 15, that's 50.5. So you can save a whole half level and go up. So we're going to see if 50.5 and 50 make a difference. I have Retro Cup meta to the right. We hit battle. Here's what you get in 2 shield. So as you see, the difference between 50 and 51, not too much at all. Nothing really flips from 50 to 51. 4 points or 5 points aren't really super, it's not super impressive unless you're like going for super 1 HP in a dream. So not that great. So as you see here, you beat a lot. You beat a ton of leads. You actually only lose to 1, 2, 3, 5. You only lose to 6 matchups out of 24. So you beat, my math's correct, you beat 75% of the lead meta, or the top lead meta. The rest you lose against. You beat things like Regirock, Celio, Wishcash, Alola Marowak. You beat all the, you beat so many things. It's like super ridiculous. As you see, the top meta is very ghost heavy and very psychic heavy as well. So that's why it does so well against the meta. Of course, you're going to lose the fighters, which Medicham, XL, and Machamp you can still see, but even then, like, being 75% or beating so many leads is just really freaking good, especially with its bulk. As you see here against your losing matchups with Abomasnow, Altaria, and Dugong, you can sack Lickitung as a lead and then farm down whatever's in the back. Like, you could sack Lickitung, throw in your Frostless, and give Frostless energy for what's coming in the back. So you could do something like that. It's very viable. That's the 2 shield. As you see, 2 shield very strong. Loses to everything but 6. I mean, wins against everything but 6 picks. In the 1 shield, it's even stronger. As you see, in the 1 shield, you only lose 1, 2, 3, 4 matchups. In the 1 shield, you pick up Altaria. You also pick up Shadow Abomasnow. You can also beat Dugong. So you beat Dugong. You also beat Lickitung in the mirror. Well, if it's a mirror match, whoever has better IVs wins, but it just that's also energy, etc. But it's even more powerful than the 1 shield, as you see here. It's so freaking strong, it's ridiculous. It only, like, you pick up more matchups if you're down shields. So the 1 shield, again, you pick up Abomasnow, you also pick up Altaria. You still lose against Deoxys defense, Machamp, Mantine, and Medicham, but even then, like, you can still do. There's still, like, these aren't, unless it's Machamp, those aren't bad ratings to lose against. Like I said, you can sack your Lickitung and farm down, there's still some play. The no shield is where it gets kind of dicey because it is not that powerful in the closer. As you see here, you drop 1, 3, 4, 5, 6. Actually, it's not that bad because you only drop. You actually still beat some picks. You basically lose the same like number of matchups you would in 2s and the 0s. So you lose against Abomasnow, you lose against Altaria, Frostless, Machamp, and Regirock. So basically, Regirock just nukes you to death. But that's not a bad rating. If you have chip damage on Regirock, you can take it out. Against Machamp, Shadow Champ, if you can, I think if you hit it with like a Power Whip, you can take this thing out. So that's a simultaneous knockout, but the question is why. So in the 1 shield, how much does Power Whip do? So Power Whip does 72 damage. So that plus the lick damage, you could possibly take out Machamp. So there's a way you can take out Machamp if you have energy lead, I think, or if you have chip damage. So there's a way to take out Machamp. As you see here, it's still very, very strong in the closer. You beat out the Psychics, you beat out the Ghosts, etc. It's very, very powerful, which is really good. Why not a lot of people have one. So, but if you do have one, dear God, this thing is strong. In the 1 to 0s, Lickitung beats the entire meta. It beats you. I looked at this and I was just like, there's no way. And I looked and I was like, wow. Dang. It would really suck if someone actually had one of these things. Oh, yeah. So in the 1-0s, you'll beat the entire meta. You beat them with really convincing rating as well. I think the closest one you have is like Regirock and Altaria. But even then, like, 1-0s is nuts. In the 2-0s, if you beat in the 1-0s and the 2-0s, obviously you beat everything too. So Lickitung wipes the entire meta in the 1-0s and the 2-0s. With shield advantage. No, not the 2 shields. With shield advantage, Lickitung still beats everything in the meta. This thing's overpowered! Well, it's either, if you have one of these things in your team, it's either going to be kill it, or it's going to kill you, basically. As you see here, with shield advantage, it beats everything in the meta. You give this thing a shield, if you sack your lead and give this thing a shield, or like give it 2 shields, this thing's probably going to destroy a lot of the meta. As you see here, it's just absolutely, it's absolutely nuts just how destructive it is. It's crazy. That's why I'm like, if someone has one of these, I would be very impressed. As you see, 50 and 51 still doesn't matter much, whether or not you're the 1-0s, 2-0s, or if you're the 2-1s. The ratings are very different. So I wouldn't worry about it too much. Alright, so with bulk and breakpoints, as you see here, it's Lick, okay? And with 50 and 50.5, there isn't too much of a difference. As you see here, 3 to 2, there aren't many, there's not a lot of breakpoint damage. Everything's generally the same, even if you're using a 50 or 51. Except for Galvantula. I think Galvantula is the only one I noticed. Just because the one, I mean, it won't really matter. Whether or not you have, even if you do have the 50.5 and you go in the matchup, here's what happens. You still win, so... And it's still a dot. Like if you see the rating and it's barely, if it's above, if it's 500, like 504, like 506, like 406, if it's that close, yeah. But this is still a really close matchup. If you lag by 1 volt switch, you still die. So just keep that in mind. So Galvantula, there is one. So breakpoints, like I said, breakpoints and bullet points. Even in the 1-0 shield scenario, there's not really a lot. Like I said, there's not a lot. So in the 0s, that's just breakpoints. So breakpoints don't make too much of a difference. 50 and 51. So 50 is fine. You don't need a 50.5. Unless it's very specific. Very specific. As far as bulk points go, same thing. As you see here, not much differences at all. There's no real there's no bulk point that shows for the fast move damage that really makes a difference. So again, 50.5 or whether or not you have a little 50 doesn't matter. So you can use either one. 50.5 you can just to save Stardust, but like 50's fine. So just make sure you have that. As far as like CMP goes, Lickitung does win surprisingly Lickitung does win CMP against a lot of things, as you see here, which is pretty nuts. Yeah, it's, well, actually, it doesn't, I lie, yeah, it's very strange. So, well, it's because Lickitung has a high attack stat. So as you, because level 50 Lickitung generally has a high attack stat because you have to have an 8 attack one. So because its attack stat is higher, that's why it wins CMP most of the time. Unless someone has some crazy Galvantula out there that has a bad IV. So if they have, yeah. Because you have that 8 attack with a level 51, generally you'll win most CMP ties. Generally. So just keep that in mind. But even then, because you're using a Lick Pokemon, CMP ties won't matter a lot. You know what I mean? It is very hard to try and CMP block your opponent when you have a Lick Pokemon. Very, very hard. I mean, if you can do it, you're a god. If I can't, I'm not going to do it because it hurts my head. Yeah, it hurts my head. But anyways, that's what CMP ties. Because it has a high attack for level 50, you're probably going to win CMP most of the time. As you see, still like bulk and breakpoints doesn't matter too much between 50 and 51. There isn't anything specific that would flip anything notable. Lickitung XL is just that good. In summary, Lickitung XL is a 10 out of 10. You want to know why? Because it's the most powerful and polarizing Pokemon in the Retro Cup. If someone has one, there's still a decent amount of time to build one. So if someone dedicates all their rare candy, this thing will actually run over the Retro Cup with a lot of finesse. Because what happens is this: if it does happen to be a ghost / psychic heavy meta, then then Lickitung XL is gonna roam free It's gonna be pretty free. So again, if you're gonna dedicate all your XL candy, or like not XL candy, well, if you do, dang. But if you dedicate all your rare candy into Lickitung to build one, totally possible. And if you do get one, I'm mega jelly because that thing's really freaking good in this meta. Very powerful, very bulky, high damage output, and it's just again, because its only real weakness is fighting typings in this meta, and Altaria in the 2 shield, but other than that, this thing, like, well, Deoxys defense as well, but other than those typings that I mentioned, it's still very, very strong. And again, if you give it shield event, it beats everything in the meta. So, yeah. Let's hope that we don't see a lot of Lickitung XLs running around in the Retro Cup. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this. Good luck in your Galaxies. I hope you guys are excited for the Retro Cup. It's still a little bits away, but I wanted to make Retro Cup content now so that people have access to it, because Great League Season 7 hasn't changed. There's no increases or decreases in moves, etc. So might as well make a Retro Cup now, unless something changes in the future. But that won't change how powerful Lickitung XL is in the Retro Cup meta. Good luck on your Go Galaxies, and I'll see you guys in the next video.